At this altitude, oxygen is scarce and temperatures fall to minus 30 degrees. Helicopters pilots that fly over here risk their life every time they need to complete a mission. And yet, in May 2024, something prepared to rise. A drone. Its mission: to carry over 15 kilograms of critical supplies, oxygen tanks, food, and batteries directly in the death zone of Mount Everest. Wind is slicing at over 15 meters per second. Temperatures is falling below minus 30 degrees. The drone roses from the base camp of Mount Everest and reaches Camp 1 and Camp 2. It completes the delivery in 30 minutes. It returns intact. But who made it happen? Well, DJI. In that moment on the roof of the world, DJI didn't just prove what its machines could do, it redefined what drones are for. Because now drones don't just capture weddings, great beaches, and events. They map farmland, inspect bridges, deliver emergency aid, and so much more. A new industry is rising on the potential of the use cases unlocked by these recent technologies, silently, above our heads. And leading it, far above the competition, is DJI. With over 77% of the global consumer drone market, it doesn't just control the market. It owns the sky, leading also in innovation. But how can this company, born in 2006, be now worth over $15 billion? DJI's secret lies behind the man who founded it and run it. No press tours, no TED Talks, no product unveilings with applause. Just a quiet obsession, born in a college dorm and built into a global empire. His name is Frank Wang. In the early 2000s, Frank, a quiet, sharp-minded young man, enrolled at the electronic engineering faculty at the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. Long before he ever dreamed of changing the world of aerial technology, Frank had a deep fascination with model aircraft. As a teenager, he spent countless hours building and flying RC helicopters, marveling at the mechanics and precision of flight. It was a hobby, a passion, but nothing more. But that would soon change. As his university years progressed, what began as a love for model aviation began to evolve into something much deeper. Frank became captivated by the idea that these flying machines could do more, that they could fly intelligently, autonomously, without constant human control. The concept of drones, at the time still a niche, unstable technology, began to take hold of his imagination. Frank wasn't like most students. He was intensely reserved, often described as obsessive by those who knew him. While others socialized or joined clubs, Frank spent long nights in the lab or alone in his dorm room, buried in wires, code, and component parts. He wasn't satisfied simply flying helicopters. He wanted to understand, refine, and reinvent how they worked. He tore down and rebuilt countless models, experimenting with new flight configurations, modifying sensors, and chasing stability through innovation. But it was specifically one university project that marked a turning point. Frank set out to build a flight control system for RC helicopters, not just to operate them, but to stabilize them in the air, even in the face of wind and sudden movements. It was a leap forward, and a glimmer of what was possible. His professors took notice, especially Li Zexiang, who recognized not only the technical merit of Frank's work, but the entrepreneurial spirit behind it. Seeing promise in his project, Li and the university awarded him a modest entrepreneurial grant, about $3,000. With this, Frank took his first steps beyond academia. Instead of returning home for the summer, he packed his things and moved to Shenzhen, China's burgeoning tech capital. There, in a tiny apartment, he began building his flight controllers by hand, piece by piece. He enlisted the help of classmates, forming a small team. They weren't a company yet, just young minds chasing a vision. But the road was rough. He tried selling his controllers to small hobby shops, only to be turned away. The market didn't understand what he was offering. His ideas felt too advanced, too ahead of their time. After a string of failed tests and rejections, Frank began to feel the weight of doubt. Then came a moment that changed everything. After days without sleep, endlessly debugging and fine-tuning his system, one of his helicopters lifted into the air and hovered. Not erratically, not shakily. It held position, steady and smooth, for more than a minute. In that quiet moment, something clicked, not just in the machine, but in Frank himself. He realized that this wasn't just a personal project anymore. That breakthrough, that minute of perfect flight, gave birth to an idea far bigger than any single prototype. Frank decided he wouldn't stop at building flight controllers. He would build a company, one that could bring intelligent flight to the world. He named it DJI Innovations, and that's how it began. Not in a boardroom, not in a lab full of experts, but in the quiet, determined work of a student who took his childhood fascination with model aircraft and transformed it into a revolution in the skies. At first, DJI was a quiet name known only to insiders. Frank Wang was selling flight controllers, precision parts that helped drones fly more smoothly. Hobbyists and engineers from Germany, New Zealand, and beyond were reaching out, asking for better tech. Frank delivered smarter autopilot features. And in this way, DJI makes his market entry as drone components developer. But in 2011, at a trade show for remote control helicopters in Muncie, Indiana, something happened that would change DJI forever. In Muncie, Frank Wang met Colin Guinn, a sharp and ambitious Texan running an aerial cinematography startup. Colin wasn't an engineer, he was a creator looking for a way to shoot smooth, stable video from the air. He needed something reliable, light, and smart, and he couldn't find it anywhere. He was trying to shoot smooth, stable video from a drone, but couldn't get the footage to stop shaking. Frank had been working on exactly that problem. He had developed a lightweight camera stabilizer, a gimbal, that could keep the video steady even while the drone bounced and shifted in flight. The two began collaborating and assembling drones capable of filming with a certain level of stability. They used smart sensors to adjust automatically. It was simple, compact, and it worked. And with time, the cost of making his flight controllers had dropped from around $2,000 in 2006 to less than $400 by 2011. That changed everything. Because now Frank realized something big. He wasn't just solving problems for engineers. He was building the foundation for a product that anyone could use. Instead of selling parts to people who had to assemble their own drones, soldering wires, programming code, what if DJI could sell the whole drone ready to fly straight out of the box? It was a shift in mindset, from being a supplier of components to being a creator of complete consumer drones. In late 2011, after their initial collaboration, Frank Wang and Colin Guinn founded DJI North America, a new subsidiary based in Austin, Texas, aimed at bringing DJI's drone technology to the consumer market in the West. And from that shift, from that clarity of purpose, came the product that changed everything, the DJI Phantom.
We've got some really exciting new announcements here for NAB this year, and a couple of them I'm going to show you about is, for one, our Phantom quadcopter. So this is our entry-level device for shooting aerial photography.
The DJI Phantom was unlike anything the world had seen. Simple enough for a beginner, powerful enough for a professional, and the market didn't wait.
Welcome to the unboxing of the Phantom.
It's the Phantom 1.
Hey guys, Phantom 1!
Social media caught fire. Drone footage flooded Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. For the first time, aerial cinematography was no longer a Hollywood privilege. It was accessible to all. Unboxings, reviews, cinematic demos. The Phantom became more than a product, and it became a movement, with free marketing coming from the DJI's users themselves. Sales exploded. DJI's name spread like wildfire. By the time the Phantom 2 launched, annual sales had reached $480 million, over 3 billion yuan, marking a staggering 237% year-over-year growth. If you're interested in this story, then make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the other episodes about the most fascinating entrepreneurial journeys. The company was rapidly evolving into a global player. It was built with GoPro integration in mind. Consumers loved it, and GoPro benefited from the exposure. But inside GoPro, that success sparked hesitation and ambition. Why was DJI in control of the skies, while GoPro was just a passenger? Behind closed doors, GoPro began to develop its own drone, the Karma. At the same time, discussions to deepen the partnership with DJI stalled. This put Colin Guinn in a delicate position. As the head of DJI North America, he had worked closely with GoPro. He believed in collaboration, in shared growth. But back in Shenzhen, Frank Wang saw things differently. He watched the GoPro deal fracture, he saw the risks of dependency, and he made a decision. DJI would go it alone. The moment of rupture came quickly. Tensions between Colin and Frank reached a boiling point, not just about GoPro, but about control, vision, ownership. Colin wanted to grow DJI North America as a co-leader. Frank wanted to consolidate everything under headquarters in China. So he acted. Emails were shut off, operations in the US were locked down, Colin Guinn was pushed out, and Frank Wang, for the first time, stood alone, in complete control of DJI. But Frank wasn't just an engineer anymore. He was building a brand. Frank began building what others weren't even thinking about yet. An ecosystem. Not just a drone, but a platform, a fully integrated experience from sky to screen. And then, the breakthrough. DJI entered the Apple App Store, a Chinese drone brand inside the walled garden of Apple. Now users could fly their drones with their phones, live stream their flights, track GPS data, battery life, altitude and camera settings, all in real time. From their iPhone, everything unified, soon across iOS, Android, and Windows ecosystems. DJI had become what few thought possible. At all effects, a consumer tech brand as polished and intuitive as the Silicon Valley giants. And then came the product that sealed it all. The Phantom 3, a drone with a built-in DJI camera, stabilized by DJI's own gimbal, controlled by DJI's own app. There is not GoPro, no third parties, no compromises, an appealing and intuitive consumer tech drone fully integrated. By the time the Phantom 3 hit the shelves, DJI controlled over 70% of the global drone market. The competitors were scattered. The vision was clear. By 2015, DJI had become unstoppable. The company reached a revenue of over 6 billion yuan, nearly $1 billion, and was valued at an astonishing $10 billion. But with DJI's rise came the chase. A wave of competitors emerged, hoping to ride the drone boom. Startups, venture-backed players, even camera companies, all trying to catch up. But none could match DJI's pace, precision, or vertical integration. Even Colin Guinn, after his split with Frank, tried to challenge DJI from within the US. He joined 3D Robotics, bringing in talent, investors, and momentum. They launched the Solo drone, the sleek, promising, open source, but it was too little, too late. The hardware couldn't compete. The market moved faster than they did. Eventually, Guinn pivoted from hardware to drone software and enterprise platforms. Meanwhile, Frank Wang kept building. DJI didn't just release one great drone and stop there. It kept launching new models, each one crafted for a different kind of user. For travelers and everyday creators, DJI made drones that were small, foldable, and easy to carry. perfect for capturing adventures on the go. For casual users, it introduced more playful and affordable drones, designed to be flown right out of the box with minimal effort. And for serious creators and aerial filmmakers, it kept improving camera quality, flight stability, and intelligent features. No matter the budget or experience level, DJI had a drone that fit. And with every new launch, it expanded its reach, turning flying cameras into a tool that anyone could use, from backpacks to film sets, from hobbyists to professionals. DJI was becoming the standard. But Frank Wang wasn't just thinking about consumers. He saw a bigger opportunity in industries. DJI began developing drones tailored for specific professional sectors. In agriculture, DJI introduced drones like the Agri series, designed to assist farmers with crop spraying and monitoring, improving efficiency and lowering costs. In cinematography, the Inspire series delivered the kind of dynamic aerial shots once only possible with helicopters, quickly becoming a favorite on commercial sets. And for infrastructure inspections and emergency response, DJI developed the Matrice series, rugged modular drones capable of handling the toughest environments, from bridges to power lines to search and rescue. By addressing the real needs of professionals, DJI expanded far beyond the consumer space, transforming into a full-stack provider of aerial solutions. But then, the world pushed back. Starting in 2020 under the Trump administration, the United States began a series of actions aimed at limiting DJI's global expansion. DJI was placed on the U.S. Entity List, restricting American companies from supplying it with components, citing national security and human rights concerns. In 2021, under the Biden administration, further restrictions followed.
Drones have become essential for both government and business. The vast majority are made in China by one company, DJI.
DJI was added to a federal blacklist of companies allegedly linked to China's military-industrial complex, effectively banning U.S. investments in the firm. Then in 2022, the Department of Defense labeled DJI a Chinese military company, tightening scrutiny and fueling calls to ban its products from government use. Agencies were instructed to avoid DJI drones. Contracts were canceled. Several U.S. states proposed legislation banning DJI products from public infrastructure projects. And in 2024, DJI took legal action, suing the U.S. government to challenge the military designation and defend its presence in Western markets. These moves didn't kill DJI, but they slowed it down and forced it to pivot. Under pressure, DJI kept innovating, and it released the Air 2S, the Mavic 3, and the Mini 3 Pro, each one refining portability, image quality, and intelligence. It launched DJI Dock for autonomous missions and Flight Hub 2 for real-time operations across industries. And then, in 2023, a DJI drone made history. A Mavic 3 was flown over the summit of Mount Everest, 8,848 meters above sea level, capturing not just breathtaking footage, but proving what DJI drones could do, even at the top of the world. By the end of 2023, DJI reached an estimated $4 billion in annual revenue, up from $3.83 billion in 2021. But in 2024, that momentum dipped. Revenues fell to around $3.5 billion due to market saturation, rising competition, and growing regulatory pressure in key regions. Still, DJI holds over 70% of the global drone market, and while privately owned, its estimated valuation stands between $15 and $25 billion. With Frank, that still holds around 40% of the company, making him a multi-billionaire. It remains the undisputed global leader in drone technology, not just because of its products, but because of its vision. An example of Chinese entrepreneur with global success, path followed by other founders in the last years. Just think about the success of TikTok, BYD, or Temu. In this regard, if you want to understand how Colin Wang, Temu founder, disrupted American retail and rewrote the rules of e-commerce, you can check out our full video on Temu, clicking here on the screen. And if you want to watch the entire series, then dive into our Serial Entrepreneurs playlist. You'll find it right below in the comments section, with exciting and insightful entrepreneurial stories